They had no clue who they were up against. When a flight attendant forced a black family out of first class, it seemed like yet another act of discrimination. But moments later, the truth surfaced, and everything changed. This wasn't just any wealthy family. They owned the entire airline. What happened next?
No one saw it coming.
Before we dive into the story, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. The boarding gate buzzed with energy as passengers rushed to find their seats, eager to settle in. Among them was a family of 3, James Anderson, his wife Celeste, and their 5-year-old son Liam. James, dressed sharply in a tailored navy suit, carried a sleek leather briefcase, his quiet confidence radiating. Beside him, Celeste, graceful and poised in a flowing ivory dress, held little Liam's hand as he skipped along, giggling with excitement. This trip was a much-needed escape from their fast-paced lives. As they stepped into the first-class cabin, the polished interior gleamed under the warm cabin lights. James glanced at their seat numbers, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Here we are," he said, leading Celeste and Liam to their seats. Nearby passengers acknowledged them with polite nods as the Andersons settled in. Celeste helped Liam climb into his seat, handing him a small toy airplane that instantly lit up his face with joy. Meanwhile, James carefully stored their carry-ons in the overhead compartment. Across the cabin, a flight attendant named Veronica Summers took notice. Her sharp eyes scanned the family, lips pressing into a thin line. Adjusting her crisp uniform as if preparing for battle, she strode briskly toward them, her forced smile barely masking the judgment in her gaze. "Excuse me," Veronica's voice carried an air of authority as she addressed James. "May I see your boarding passes?" James turned calmly, reaching into his jacket pocket. "Of course," he replied, handing them over with a polite nod. Celeste glanced up, sensing an edge in Veronica's tone, while Liam, blissfully unaware, continued playing with his toy. Veronica scrutinized the tickets with unnecessary intensity, her brows knitting together as she double-checked the details. "First class?" she muttered, her voice faltering slightly, as if the words were hard to believe. James gave a firm nod. "Yes, these are our seats." His tone remained even, but Celeste caught the flicker of irritation in his eyes. Veronica hesitated, visibly uncomfortable. "I'll need to verify something with the front desk. Please remain seated," she said curtly before spinning on her heels and marching away. James leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. "What was that about?" Celeste asked softly, concern creeping into her voice. James placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Probably just a routine check." "Don't worry," he said, though the slight tightening around his mouth suggested otherwise. In the galley, Veronica's voice dropped to a whisper as she spoke into the phone. "I have a situation here," she murmured, glancing toward the cabin. "There's a family in first class. I need to confirm their tickets. Something seems off." On the other end, the ground staff sounded puzzled. "The Andersons? Their tickets were booked weeks ago. Fully confirmed. Is there an issue?" Veronica hesitated, irritation creeping into her voice. No issue," she muttered before abruptly hanging up. But instead of returning to apologize, her expression hardened. She straightened her posture, took a deep breath, and marched back toward the first-class cabin. Standing before the Andersons again, her tone was firmer. "I'm going to need you to step aside for a moment. There seems to be an error with your booking." Celeste's brows knitted together as she exchanged a glance with James. Liam looked up, confused by the sudden shift in mood. James rose slowly, his calm demeanor masking the frustration simmering beneath. "What kind of error?" he asked, his voice steady. Veronica avoided his gaze. "I just need to confirm your seating," she insisted, gesturing toward the galley. "If you'd follow me, please." James hesitated but nodded, signaling Celeste to stay put with Liam. As he followed Veronica, hushed whispers rippled through the cabin, passengers exchanging glances, sensing something wasn't right. Celeste's unease deepened. Liam tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, what's happening?" he asked softly. She forced a smile, squeezing his hand. "Nothing, sweetheart. Daddy's just sorting something out. But deep down, she knew this was far from routine. Something was very wrong. In the galley, Veronica's voice wavered as she addressed James. Sir, it appears your reservation may have been flagged. James arched a brow, his tone sharp but controlled. Flagged? These tickets were booked and fully paid for weeks ago. What exactly is the issue? Veronica crossed her arms, adopting a defensive stance. It's not about payment. First class is a premium cabin, and we need to ensure all seating is accurate. James's lips curled into a slight, humorless smile. A premium cabin, he echoed, his voice carrying weight. Are you implying that I don't belong here? Veronica stiffened, realizing how it sounded. Of course not, she replied quickly, her tone forced. I'm just following protocol. James took a slow breath, his patience wearing thin. Then let's resolve this. Quickly. Back in the cabin, passengers murmured, their curiosity growing. A middle-aged man leaned toward Celeste. Is everything okay? He asked in a low voice. Celeste gave him a tight smile. Just a mix-up, she said, though even she didn't believe it. Meanwhile, Veronica pulled aside another flight attendant, Grace. Look at him, she whispered, nodding toward James. Does he seem like the usual first-class passenger? Grace's eyes widened. You can't make those kinds of judgments, she shot back, her voice low but firm. If his ticket is valid, that's the end of it. Veronica ignored her and returned to James. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you and your family to move to the main cabin until this is sorted out. James tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. On what grounds? Veronica hesitated. Like I said, protocol. James's voice lowered, carrying an undeniable weight. It seems like you're acting on something other than protocol. Before Veronica could respond, the intercom chimed. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as we finalize some adjustments. James gave Veronica a pointed look before pulling out his phone. Excuse me, he said curtly. He made a quick call, his voice measured yet authoritative. Is this still the right time?
Good.
Proceed as planned. Ending the call, he turned back to Veronica, his calm demeanor now unnerving. Shall we return to my family? He asked, polite but firm. Veronica nodded stiffly, leading him back to the cabin. But something about his confidence unsettled her. Passengers watched intently as James returned. Celeste met his gaze, silently asking a question. James gave her a reassuring nod. But she knew. The situation? Far from over. Veronica squared her shoulders and approached them again. Sir, she began, we've decided it would be best for you and your family to move to the main cabin until we fully verify your reservation. James let out a slow breath, his voice calm but laced with steel. Our tickets have been verified. We paid in full. If there's a valid reason for us to move, I'd love to hear it. Veronica's confidence faltered. Other passengers murmured in disapproval. You're paying customers like the rest of us, one man said loudly. Why are you being singled out? Veronica's face reddened. If you don't cooperate, I'll be forced to involve security. James adjusted his suit jacket. Then make sure they come with an explanation. What happened next? No one was prepared for it.